I'm James, and this is the story of the worst night of my life. It started innocently enough. My wife Lily and I were on a road trip through the English countryside, a spontaneous getaway to celebrate our 3rd anniversary. We'd spent the day driving through winding lanes, past patchwork fields and sleepy villages, the kind of places where time seems to stand still. By late afternoon, the sky was turning a bruised purple and exhaustion was creeping in. We needed a place to crash for the night. Lily was scrolling through a booking app on her phone, her brow furrowed. "There's not much around here," she said, her voice tinged with fatigue. "Wait, here's one. The Willow Inn. 20 minutes away, decent reviews. A couple say it's cozy but odd, whatever that means." I shrugged it off. Cozy sounded good enough after 8 hours behind the wheel. I turned the car onto a narrow road flanked by dense forest, the kind where the trees lean in like they're whispering secrets. The GPS led us deeper into the woods until we reached a clearing, and there it was, the Willow Inn, a squat, 2-story building with peeling paint and ivy clawing up the walls. It looked like it hadn't been touched since the Victorian era, but the warm glow from the windows promised shelter. We pulled up, gravel crunching under the tires, and stepped out into the chilly dusk. The air smelled of damp earth and pine, and a faint mist was rolling in from the trees. Lily shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. "This place gives me the creeps already," she muttered. I laughed it off, grabbing our bags. "It's just old. Come on, let's get inside." The front door creaked open before I could knock, revealing a woman who could have stepped out of a Gothic novel. She was tall and thin, maybe 60, with wiry grey hair pulled into a tight bun, and eyes that glittered too brightly under the porch light. "You must be James and Lily," she said, her voice soft but sharp-edged, like a blade wrapped in velvet. Her smile stretched wide, showing too many teeth. I blinked, caught off guard. We hadn't called ahead. How did she know our names? Yeah, that's us," I replied, forcing a grin. "We saw your place online. Got a room for the night?" "Of course," she said, stepping aside. "I'm Mrs. Hawthorne, the keeper of this little haven. Come in, come in. You've had a long day, haven't you?" Something about her tone made my skin prickle, but I chalked it up to road fatigue. She led us into a cramped lobby, all dark wood and faded floral wallpaper, the air thick with the scent of mildew and lavender. She didn't ask for ID or payment, just handed me a rusty key labeled Room 4 and pointed us up a narrow staircase. "Dinner's at 7, she called after us. "Don't be late." Our room was small, with a sagging double bed, a chipped dresser, and a single window overlooking the forest. Lily dropped her bag and flopped onto the mattress, groaning. "This place is a dump. James, did you see how she knew our names? That's weird, right?" I nodded, unease gnawing at me, but I didn't want to spook her. "Maybe the app sent her our info. Let's just eat and crash. We'll be out of here by morning." Dinner was in a dimly lit dining room downstairs, just the 3 of us at a long oak table. Mrs. Hawthorne served us lukewarm stew and stale bread, her eyes darting between us as we ate. She started talking, her voice low and hypnotic. "This inn's been in my family for generations. We've had all sorts come through. Travelers, lovers, lost souls. Some stay longer than they plan." She paused, staring at Lily's wedding ring. "How long have you two been married? You must have such lovely memories." Lily shifted uncomfortably, her spoon clattering against the bowl. 3 years, she said curtly. Mrs. Hawthorne's smile widened. 3 years, that's a good start. Plenty more to come, if you stay. The way she said stay hung in the air like a threat. I cleared my throat, trying to change the subject. So, any interesting guests lately? She leaned forward, her eyes glinting. Oh yes, a young couple last month. Sweet things, they didn't want to leave either. Her words sent a chill down my spine, but before I could press her, she stood abruptly. Sleep well, she said, vanishing into the kitchen. Back in our room, Lily paced, her voice tight. James, something's off about her. She's too intense. I wanted to reassure her, but I couldn't shake the feeling either. Let's just lock the door and get some rest, I said, turning the key in the flimsy lock. We crawled into bed, the mattress creaking under us, and I tried to drift off, but sleep wouldn't come. Around midnight, I jolted awake to a sound, soft, deliberate footsteps pacing the hallway outside our door. I held my breath, listening as they stopped right in front of us. Lily stirred, whispering, "Did you hear that?" I nodded, heart pounding, and crept to the door. Peering through the keyhole, I saw a shadow, tall and thin, swaying slightly, but no face, just darkness. I flung the door open, ready to confront whoever it was, but the hall was empty, the air cold and still. James, what the hell was that? Lily hissed, clutching the blanket. I don't know, I admitted, my voice shaky. Maybe it's just the house settling. But then I noticed something on the dresser, a tattered leather notebook that hadn't been there before. My hands trembled as I picked it up and flipped it open. Inside were handwritten entries, dates stretching back years. Room 2, couple, stayed 3 nights, didn't leave. Room 4, woman, 7 days, stayed. Our room number was listed too, with yesterday's date and a single word, arrived. Lily's eyes widened. James, we need to get out of here. Now. Morning couldn't come fast enough. When the first grey light filtered through the window, I woke to find Lily already up, staring at our suitcase. Someone's been in here, she whispered, pointing at the unzipped bag. Our clothes were tossed around, and on my pillow was a Polaroid photo. Us, asleep in bed, taken from above. My stomach dropped. That's impossible, I stammered. The door was locked. But then I saw the window, ajar, just an inch, with muddy smears on the sill. Someone had climbed in while we slept. We're leaving, I said, grabbing our stuff. But when we got downstairs, Mrs. Hawthorne was waiting, blocking the front door. Her smile was gone, replaced by a cold, unblinking stare. You can't go yet, she said, her voice flat. The roads are bad, storms coming, stay another night. I've got everything ready for you. I glanced at Lily, her face pale, and pushed past. We're fine, thanks. That's when I saw it, a glint of steel in her hand, a small kitchen knife, clutched tight. Panic hit me like a wave. Lily, run, I shouted, shoving Mrs. Hawthorne aside. She lunged, the knife slashing the air inches from my arm, and I stumbled back, dragging Lily toward the car. You can't leave, she screeched, her voice echoing through the trees as we bolted outside. I fumbled with the keys, my hands slick with sweat, while Lily pounded on the passenger window. Mrs. Hawthorne burst onto the porch, her hair wild, eyes blazing like some feral thing. I jammed the key into the ignition, the engine roaring to life just as she reached the car, slamming her fists against the glass. You're mine, she howled. I floored it, tires spinning on the gravel, and we tore down the road. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there, a dark figure shrinking into the mist, her gaze locked on us. My heart didn't stop racing until we hit the main highway, miles away. Lily was shaking, clutching the Polaroid. James, look at this, she said, flipping it over. Scrawled on the back in jagged handwriting was, You'll come back." We didn't stop until we reached a police station in the next town. The officer listened, his face grim, as I spilled everything. The footsteps, the notebook, the photo, the knife. "The Willow Inn's been on our radar," he said. "We've had reports of missing travelers over the years, but no proof. That woman, Margaret Hawthorne, she's got a history of mental instability. We'll check it out." I told him about the locked door I'd glimpsed in the basement when I'd wandered down looking for a bathroom. A heavy iron thing with scratches around the lock and a faint, rancid smell seeping out. His jaw tightened. "We'll look into that too." Days later, I called the station for an update. The inn was shut down, they said. They'd found that locked room, chains bolted to the floor, a stained mattress, and walls scratched with desperate fingernail marks. No sign of Mrs. Hawthorne, though. Just an empty house and a stack of Polaroids, some showing faces we didn't recognize, others too faded to make out. The officer wouldn't say more, but his voice was heavy. "You're lucky you got out," he said. "Not everyone did." That was 6 months ago. Lily and I don't talk about it much, but the nightmares haven't stopped. I still see her standing in that road, her eyes burning into me. And sometimes, when the phone rings late at night and there's nothing but static on the line, I wonder if she's out there, waiting. We threw away that Polaroid, but I can't shake the feeling it wasn't the only one she took. So here's my advice. If you're ever driving through the countryside and see a sign for the Willow Inn, keep going. Trust your gut when something feels off. Because sometimes a bed for the night comes with a price you don't want to pay. If you've got a story like this, drop it in the comments. And if you want more tales from the shadows, hit that subscribe button. This is Stranger Shadows, signing off. Sleep tight.